One of the big headline stories of last year was the romance between millionaire property tycoon Emmanuel Lieberman and the wealthy and beautiful Mrs. Delia Savage. It was a gossip columnist's delight, conducted against a background of yachts, luxury hotels and penthouse apartments. 56-year-old Mr. Lieberman carried on his courtship with fabulous gifts of jewellery to add to Mrs. Savage's already remarkable collection. She, a former actress, was installed in a flat worth £250,000 in a tower block built by Mr. Lieberman's company overlooking London's Green Park near the Ritz Hotel. The marriage was due to take place in a few months' time. Then, one morning, Mr. Lieberman returned unexpectedly from a business trip to San Francisco and went straight to the penthouse. What he saw there not only made him break off the engagement, but has its sequel today in the Crown Court, as judge and counsel take their places for the case of Lieberman versus Savage.
Mr. Fry.
Lord, may it please the court. I appear in this action for the plaintiff, Mr. Emmanuel Lieberman, assisted by my learned friend, Miss Tate. The action is one for the possession of an apartment situated in Green Park House in St. James's Court in the city of Westminster. Your lordship would care to examine these photographs.
Thank you, Mr. Fry.
The members of the jury will no doubt recognize the apartment as one which has attracted a certain amount of attention from the press.
Is it your intention to put in these photographs as evidence, Mr. Fry?
It is, my lord. They are part of the agreed bundle of documents.
Then the jury may examine them. Incidentally, Mr. Fry, perhaps you would explain the presence of a jury in this action. It is, as you know, very rare these days in cases like these.
I can assure your lordship that it is none of my doing. My learned friend, Mr. Elliot, who appears for the defendant, was particularly insistent on the desirability of a jury and went so far as the Court of Appeal in order to obtain the permission of their lordships. No doubt he had his reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Please continue.
I was about to say that the penthouse in the photographs is one which has attracted a certain amount of attention from the press. This is, of course, because of the swimming pool which is situated on the roof and other desirable features.
To assist the jury, perhaps you should explain that this flat or penthouse is situated on the top floor of this building. That is, I think, what the word penthouse has come to mean.
I must oblige to your lordship. Of course, I should have mentioned that it is on the 32nd floor.
An unusual place to find a swimming pool.
Oh, quite so, my lord. And this unusualness is reflected in the value of the property, which my client places at £200,000. And the plaintiff, Mr. Lieberman, is a respected figure in the City of London, where he has for some years now been engaged in the business of acquiring and developing property through the company of which he's chairman and managing director, Cosmos Developments Limited. And one of these developments, Green Park House, is the penthouse and office block in question. I have here, my lord, a plan of the apartment which is material to the case and which I should also like to enter as evidence.
These are also part of the agreed documents.
There they are, my lord.
Very well. As we have a jury, make sure they all can see them.
It was my client's intention to reserve the apartment for his personal use, but as you can see from the plan, it was perhaps too spacious for the sole occupation of a man who had had the misfortune recently to lose his wife.
Is the jury to understand that the plaintiff is a widower?
A widower, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Were there any children of this marriage?
A son, my lord, Mr. Mark Lieberman, who is now 26 years of age. My client made the acquaintance of the defendant in the autumn of 1971. She was a young woman considerably his junior. What his feelings were to her and how he gave expression to those feelings, he will tell you in due course. All I propose to say at this moment is that he formed the intention to enter into matrimony with Mrs. Salvage, who had found that her marriage to her last husband was annulled a few months previously. As earnest and proof of this intention to marry Mrs. Salvage, he proposed that she should take up residence in the penthouse, which is the subject of this action. Mrs. Salvage agreed and moved into the apartment on the 12th of April 1972. On the 29th of April 1972, my client, Mr. Lieberman, went to San Francisco on business for 4 weeks. On the 27th of May, 1972, he returned to London and went to the penthouse, and there found to his consternation that the defendant was apparently cohabiting with Mr. Mark Lieberman, his son.
This will be disputed by the defendant, my lord.
And no doubt it will, Mr. Elliot.
My learned friend stated it as though it were a fact. It is, of course, merely a presumption on the plaintiff's part.
I said, my lord, that they were apparently cohabiting.
Yes, yes. You will doubtless bring evidence to support that view.
Oh, quite so, my lord. Now, you may think that no more dreadful discovery than this could have been
Really,
made.
my lord?
I think we should confine ourselves to the facts, Mr. Fry.
I'm obliged. At this stage, I shall say no more than that my client expressed his horror in the strongest terms and told the defendant that she must no longer expect to marry him. Since the penthouse was occupied purely in the expectation of this marriage, he told her that she must vacate it immediately. This Mrs. Salvage has refused to do.
Was there no legal agreement as to the tenancy?
Oh, no, my lord, this was to have come later as part of the marriage settlement.
Not a very business-like arrangement.
And that in itself, my lord, shows how deeply my client was infatuated with this woman.
Is that your case, Mr. Fry?
It is, my lord. My client's personal private detective, Mr. Sidney Abbott, was a witness to the order to the defendant to vacate the premises and will be giving evidence in Mr. Lieberman's behalf. The plaintiff has tried all reasonable means to persuade the defendant to vacate the premises, and has now, however reluctantly, been compelled to assist himself by coming to this court. And now, with your lordship's permission and with the assistance of my learned friend, Miss Tate, I will seek to bring the evidence for the plaintiff. First, Mr. Emmanuel Lieberman, the plaintiff himself.
What is your religion? Jewish. You take the book in your right hand, please. Book in your right hand, please, and repeat the words written on the card. I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I give to this court and jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Emmanuel Julius Lieberman, domiciled at 2 Suffolk Terrace, Regent's Park in the city of Westminster, and you are in business as a property developer.
That is correct.
Mr. Lieberman, would you mind telling the court your age?
I'm 56 years of age, nearly 57.
Would it be fair to describe you as a man of substance,
I suppose so, yes.
even of great wealth?
Who's wealthy these days?
At all events, you are the chairman of several public companies, including Cosmos Developments Limited, which owns the freehold of Green Park House.
Yes.
And did you acquire a 99-year lease from Cosmos Developments on the penthouse?
Yes.
Mr. Lieberman, would you please tell the court how you first met Mrs. Salvage?
It was about a year ago at the Dorchester Hotel. There was a ball in aid of charity. I believe it was to do with animals, either that or some provincial theatre.
You are a charitable man, Mr. Lieberman.
I am active in certain charitable organizations, yes.
And sometimes, no doubt, on your own account. By whom were you introduced to Mrs. Salvage? Who was her companion on this charitable occasion?
On the occasion of the ball?
Yes.
She was partnered by my son, Mark.
Your son, Mark? I see. So at this time a year ago, their friendship was already well advanced.
Really, my lord, how could this witness possibly...
Quite, Mr. Elliot.
Oh, I'm obliged, your lordship. I did not, of course, mean to imply anything improper. How long was it before you met Mrs. Salvage again?
Oh, a few months later, earlier this year.
Or can you be more precise?
Yes. I believe it was, yes, on the 18th of March.
And where did this second meeting take place?
At Cannes, on board my yacht, Ed Tequila.
On the occasion of this visit to Cannes, had you invited Mrs. Savage to stay on board your yacht?
No, my son Mark asked her if he could bring her along as a guest.
For any particular reason?
Because she's a very amusing and charming woman.
Not because he had any intention of marrying her himself.
If that was his intention, he never said so.
So if anybody said that he had brought her to the south of France for your approval, that would be quite wrong.
He never said anything at all about that.
Was there any significant alteration in your attitude towards Mrs. Savage during her stay in the south of France?
Yes.
Would you tell the court what that was?
I found that I was falling in love with her.
And how long did you stay in the south of France?
Oh, about a week, 10 days. And then we flew back to London together.
You mean you went back without your son?
He flew on A little earlier. He had some business to attend to.
And when you got to London, did you make a certain proposal to Mrs. Savage?
Yes, I did.
Will you tell the court what that was?
I asked her to be my wife.
And what did she reply?
She accepted me.
And in expectation of this marriage, did you make Mrs. Savage certain gifts?
Some jewellery, yes, and a fur coat.
These are not the subject of any claim, my lord, but they tend to establish my client's frame of mind.
Very well, Mr. Fry.
How much do you think were these gifts worth?
Some 13 or 14,000 pounds, something like that.
But there was a special gift, wasn't there?
Yes. I also gave her a platinum key that I had specially made for her
A
by
key
a
to
jeweller.
what, Mr. Lieberman?
I beg your
A
pardon.
key to what?
The front door of the apartment. The penthouse at Green Park House.
And Mrs. Savage was delighted with your generosity.
She appeared to be. I asked her to move in that night because I reasoned as long as she was going to be my wife, the penthouse was hers.
As long as she was going to be your wife. Did it not occur to you that an experienced and worldly woman such as Mrs. Savage might have preferred a properly drawn-up lease?
That, of course, would have come later.
But only on condition that you were married.
Yes. I wish to make some gesture to her in the meantime.
Of course, a symbolic gesture. Now, Mr. Lieberman, we come to the heart of the matter. This marriage has not taken place. Would you tell the court why not?
Soon after I gave Mrs. Savage the key, she moved into the flat. And a few days later, I was obliged to travel to San Francisco on a business matter. I stayed there 4 weeks.
And did you have any contact with your fiancée during this time?
Yes. I telephoned her every evening.
And on the 27th of May, did you return to London?
Yes.
Did Mrs. Savage know that you were coming on that day?
No. I was due to land at London Airport and fly out shortly afterwards to Stockholm on a one-day visit, returning to London the following day.
But you didn't go to Stockholm, did you?
No. No, there was a fog. The flight was cancelled. And so I thought I'd go straight to the penthouse and give Delia a surprise.
Did she seem surprised to see you?
She seemed very angry. She said I should have let her know I was coming. She was just going to the hairdresser, she told me.
Was any other person present at this interview?
Yes. Delia's maid, Florence. The three of us were standing in the hall.
And Mrs. Savage said that she was going to the hairdresser.
Yes. I said in that case I would meet her for lunch at a restaurant later on. She said yes, that'd be fine. I embraced her. And just as I was about to leave the apartment, the bedroom door opened, and my son Mark came into the drawing room. I remember I said to Delia, "My God, what's he doing here?"
But, Mr. Lieberman, this was the middle of the morning. Why should he not be there?
In my fiancé's bedroom? Stark naked?
Stark naked, Mr. Lieberman?
Not a stitch.
You're quite sure that Mrs. Savage was occupying the master bedroom?
Where else would she be occupying? The other rooms are not decorated.
Did you see any evidence that the defendant was actually sleeping there?
Yes, the bedroom door was open. I could see the bed had been slept in. My lord, how could I stay any longer in such a place?
You were too shocked and confused, no doubt, to make investigations. Did you say anything to Mrs. Savage or to your son?
No. I said nothing to nobody. I went straight off to my club and I had lunch.
When did you next communicate with Mrs. Savage?
I telephoned her that afternoon from my office. I said, if that's the way she did choose to behave, she could, of course, no longer expect to be Mrs. Lieberman.
Did you make any specific accusation?
Yes. I said, don't argue with me, Delia. You've been sleeping with that boy.
Did you say anything about the flat?
Of course. I said I wasn't going to marry her now, and she must get out of it.
And what did she reply?
She said that I must first... My lord, she told me that I would first have to pull the bloody building down.
Mr. Lieberman, was there any witness to this conversation?
My private detective was listening on an extension.
That would be Mr. Sidney Abbott.
Abbott, yes.
Since then you have been in communication with Mrs. Savage, have you not?
Through our solicitors, yes.
But you have had no personal contact?
No.
And Mrs. Savage is still in occupation of these luxurious premises?
For the moment, yes.
Which you made available to her in the expectation, and solely in the expectation, of your future marriage?
That is correct. But you can't expect me to marry her now, can you?